Hello everyone, welcome back to another installment of the Movies That Make Marcey. I'm of course Super Marcey, and please be sure to check us out at the Super Network at supermarcey.com, and you can show some support by subscribing to our Patreon at patreon.com/thesupernetwork. Now, today's movie that made Marcey is a childhood classic, at least for me, and it is perhaps one of the darker children's films that, well, I guess is out there in general. Now, I could have picked the original and not the many years later sequel, but in thinking, I feel like this movie might have had just that little bit more of an impact on me than the original. And the film is Return to Oz, and the original would be The Wizard of Oz. Now, growing up, I absolutely loved both of these movies and I watched them all the time. I have so many memories of being quite young, maybe 4 or 5, I believe, and we had this on VHS taped off of, I believe it was the Sunday night movie, and it was very exciting for me at the time to see a sequel to The Wizard of Oz. And very much the first thing you'll notice is just how different this film is. It's so much darker. And Fairuza Balk plays Dorothy, and I actually quite love her performance in this. I think she's absolutely great. And the thing is, she looked significantly younger than Judy Garland did in the original. So as a kid, that was kind of, I guess, very striking as a difference, as well as the, I guess, a little bit of a redesign of the original characters who aren't in this much. It gives us brand new characters, and that for me was quite exciting. And we get Jack Pumpkinhead, Bellina, TikTok, what's it called? The Gump? Gumpy, I think. Oh, my mind is just going blank. I only watched this like last year as well. So yeah, the new characters are great. I really love them, and I felt Jack Pumpkinhead and TikTok just had so much heart to them. While they are very interesting looking characters because they're so different. And we of course get some interesting villains with Queen Mombi, who she decides to Queen of Hearts it and takes off women's heads, and she uses them to interchange heads. Now, that is something that is quite disturbing and quite freaky. She keeps them all locked up and changes heads as she pleased, and she's got the Wheelers as henchmen. Now, the Wheelers can be a little bit goofy, but these guys were freaking terrifying as a kid, and still to this day it's a bit like, ugh, yeah, damn those Wheelers. And they have to sort of restore Oz, get the Scarecrow back as the King of Oz. So it's a really good story. I think it was based on a couple of the books, which I haven't actually read. I've only read the first one, but it has been a mission to actually read some more Oz books. So yeah, look, this is quite a different film. It's a darker film, and I think in discovering something that was quite dark for something that was meant for kids, kind of, I guess, open those doors to want to experience, you know, more darker subjects, which would eventually lead me down the path of horror. And I guess with all the imagination this film had, I think really helped me bring that out with myself. And I did speak about that with the Alice in Wonderland musical version, and I think this movie as well really helped me with that. It really got that imagination running wild, and I was always wanting to write stories and create very weird and abstract art. So this film definitely gets credit for a lot of these things with me growing up. And I have probably a very weird story when I was quite young. I think maybe like 6 or so. I used to have it was a big Barbie head, and what you would do with it was for like the makeup and to do the hair. So I think I had like water. When you put the water on, it would change the colors, so you could do the different makeups, but that was just like the head. So that head for me would be like a playing prop when playing Return to Oz. It would be like, you know, the heads of Princess Mombi. So yeah, I was a bit of a dork. Lots of make-believe playing and acting out, you know, the movies, which is so embarrassing to admit, but I did. And this film was definitely that, with so much imagination and so many just very frightful things. And something that really, I think, still affects me is in the very beginning, where Dorothy is acting out again and they take her to the psychiatric hospital to see the doctor, and he determines that she needs electroshock therapy. And as they set that up, like, it's so dark, it's very moody, it's utterly terrifying to think that this is going to happen to a young girl. And in a way, it kind of gives us that stereotypical vision of what, you know, a psychiatric hospital, or however it's called, I'm not great with names. It gives us that really bizarre stereotypical vision we have, where it's like just electroshock therapy, when it's really not. I mean, that now is pretty much used as a last resort, but considering when this was set, that kind of practice was a bit more common. So it is something very terrifying, and it does remind us of a past that didn't really deal, I guess for Dorothy, it depends how you look at Oz, whether it's real or her imagination. Being, if you have an imagination or you had different opinions, people would look down on you. And yeah, sometimes that still happens today. But I think, at least with this movie, it's a good reflection of those themes that really work. And as an adult, there's a lot to take away from this film, stuff that I never realized or looked at as a kid, which, you know, that scene being as utterly terrifying as it is, it also represents a lot as well, which I have obviously figured out as an adult. But it is bizarre that this is a sequel that has come decades after the original, and we do find that that happens sometimes, probably not as much as it was then. So it was kind of a big deal as a kid to actually see this, and you look back on it, and it does fit in a way with the aesthetic of The Wizard of Oz, where this one takes a much darker approach, where The Wizard of Oz was a little bit more light, while it still had the dark moments, the colours and the vibrancy of it didn't really take it down too much of a dark path, where this one, you know, it's strapping you in and it's going to take you into some darker places, which I think really work, and it does make it quite different, and I think it is different enough that it does really work as a follow-up. So I definitely credit Return to Oz with helping me understand my love of cinema, my love of films, and the stories being told, and even, you know, a love of sequels that do bring you back to this world. And while this one has completely different everything, for me it does work. And of course, being that it was a darker film and something I really, really liked, and I could pretty much say the same for the musical Alice, which I have mentioned before, and you can watch that video. It sort of, those darker elements really open your eyes to wanting to seek out more. And it definitely led my way to check out some horror movies, and probably, you know, and horror movies that were, you know, more in the PG variety, but, you know, I was still quite young. And just exploring, I guess, that darker side. So Return to Oz definitely is an absolute favourite of mine. It is a lot of childhood nostalgia, but even as an adult, I still really enjoy this film. So if it's been a while since you've seen it or you've never seen it, it's one I definitely recommend. It is so different, but it still has, I guess, that wonder and magic of the original, and I really give them credit for what they did with this film, and I'll really appreciate it for what it has done for me. Thank you so much for watching, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. It means a lot to us, and any kind of support just means the world. And of course, you can find us at supermarcey.com. You can find us on Patreon at patreon.com/thesupernetwork. And if you want to check out my art and also show me some support, you can have a look at that at patreon.com/theartofmp. So until next time, I have been Super, and also being terrified of wheelers. Thanks, guys. Take care.